call the meeting to order at, what do we got here?
6:35.
And then do you want to take roll for us, Lisa?
Sure. Tom Sonic?
Here.
Julie Barrett is in attendance by Zoom. Julie, can you hear us?
I don't think
She
so.
said something, but...
Oh, sorry, yes, I can hear you.
Oh.
Great.
Okay.
Carrie Nadeau?
I'm here.
Stacy Maher? Have not heard from her, so hopefully she is just a little bit late. Trudy Onsorg?
Yep, here.
And Lisa Wong?
Here.
Okay, and that's everybody.
Great. Okay, so we'll start by adopting the agenda. So we've got the approval of minutes open to the public, commission business action items, and then reports from staff and reports from commissioners. Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved. Judy?
Second.
Second. All those in favor of approving or adopting the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is adopted. So now we'll approve the minutes, and I apologize. I didn't get a chance to see the minutes.
No, that's my fault for not having them attached to the
I
packet
was
originally,
kind
so.
of jammed in meetings, but,
I have a question
Mhm.
related to them. So they were great,
Thank you.
faithfully describing everything we talked about. But my question is, there were some comments in the minutes related to the open meeting law. And
Mhm.
I think as we're discussing that today, we'll realize that what we talked about 2 weeks ago was slightly incorrect in some ways. With the minutes then, I'm thinking if anybody looks at those minutes and they don't then look at today's minutes, they won't know, and so I was wondering if there might be a note saying
Absolutely.
these were updated,
Yes.
okay,
Yes,
information.
and actually, rather than approving the minutes, I think we should make a motion to amend them and then
Okay.
approve them next week,
that sounds good.
Okay.
or in our next meeting.
Okay.
Did you know exactly what the error was in the minutes on that one?
Yeah, so it's two things. It's a little looser than I think we had thought in terms of the open meeting. The 2 points that I recollected had to do with, the open meeting law comes into effect when there's a quorum, which would be 4 people. And so we can have up to 3. And I think in the meeting minutes, it said we couldn't have 3 people together, but we can, actually. And then there was something else about, hang on, let me look at the legislation stuff, but it was a PDF and I put it in here, on the open meeting law, and I highlighted things I thought were interesting. Okay, so gatherings of less than a quorum of a public body are not subject to the law. A meeting is held when the group is capable of exercising decision-making powers. So that was on, there are no page 4. Then the next one is, the law does not cover chance or social gatherings.
Oh.
So if I had you all over for a beer and if we just promised not to talk
Yeah.
about
good.
this, it's okay.
Oh, good. So you're gonna have us over for a beer? Is that that's what I'm hearing out of all that.
We can enjoy your garden.
Social.
Yeah.
No, that's really
So I thought that was, it just made it a lot easier.
Good, yeah, that's good
Yes,
research, good to know.
and thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Yeah.
So do we make a motion on that?
So we wanna make a motion to amend and do final approval, or do we wanna can we approve now,
Yeah.
with the assumption that those changes would be made?
Sure.
good.
Second.
All in favor of approving with those changes?
Aye.
Opposed? Julie? Okay. Now all I see is her picture, so I don't know. She might be sleeping through this whole thing, you know.
Not you.
Okay, so we got the minutes, meeting open in public. And I'll close the meeting open to the public. We don't have anybody on the Zoom call, do we?
No, they
Okay.
would be on this link that's not working.
So, commission business action items and recommendations. So first was, we had some homework to think about, who you would like to nominate as a co-chair for this commission. So I'm going to open it up if anyone would like to nominate another member of this commission to be co-chair.
Do I count since I missed roll call?
Oh, yeah. I think Lisa plugged you in here.
Mhm.
Perfect. I would like to nominate Trudy to be co-chair of this commission.
Seconded.
Oh.
Okay. Trudy third it. Trudy won it.
Well, okay, so here's the deal. I'm happy doing it, but I need to let you know, I do travel sometimes. So the German honeymoon is off.
Oh.
But there is, well, it's COVID still, you know, when I bought the tickets, levels were going down and then not so much, but,
Yeah.
But I will, you know, hopefully the practice, we did this last year and so we want to do it again, you know, I'll be gone for a month and a half in like December and January, because it's really cold here, and I can zoom in, but it's, you know, so if I do need to run the meeting, sometimes it's gonna need to be by Zoom, and so that would need to be okay.
We can also default to another member beyond
Okay.
that, meaning if I'm not here and you're not here.
Okay, okay. Oh, and then is there?
And then, I don't know, if we even have a
We
meeting.
have a quorum, so
Right,
it'd be
so-
okay.
a meeting not opposed, or not needing to be required for the full community on, so we could just meet informally.
Yeah,
Oh, there you
so I
go.
mean,
Okay,
the only time you'd have to worry about it is if you and I are both gone.
got it,
Or unable to attend remotely.
right.
Remote attendance does count, correct?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
Lisa, could you clarify what you ran into when you were on
Yeah,
vacation?
let me double check. But there were some issues with the legislature and that they changed it now that, you know, things were getting a little bit better. So the circumstances of you need to be in a public space, those were kind of some of the stipulations that they had. So I'm just gonna double check how they have adjusted their new,
Oh.
yeah, so I don't, it's pretty, yeah.
Yeah, it said public space in here,
Yep.
in the.
So like prior to COVID, like I attended a council meeting via Zoom, whatever it was at the time, and I was in a hotel bar.
Yeah. And I think Zoom counts as a public space.
Yeah, and so the legislature also doesn't want this to become a habit where, you know, your electeds and your commissioners are out,
And so,
you know,
Nobody's here.
all the time. So
Right.
I think they did put some language around, you know,
Got it.
managing it from being noise. So I'll take a look at that and.
okay, so I have a motion to nominate, a motion and a second to nominate Trudy as
Any
the
other motions?
commission chair. I think we have to vote on this one first. So all those in favor of having Trudy be our commission co-chair signify by saying aye. Aye. And I'm gonna have to call on you individually, Julie, since you're on Zoom. Julie, you there? Hello?
Julie?
I am sorry, I was muted. I apologize. I vote aye.
Okay, opposed, we have no, so all in favor, we're all good.
I abstained.
Yo, well, that's fine.
Okay.
So she abstained, so we got that for the record, but Trudy, congratulations, you're our new commissioner co-chair.
And I apologize for not asking you if you were on the list. However, based on your experience previously in River Falls with this, I thought it was a fresh perspective to have as a second to Tom.
Oh.
And you came even citing open meeting rules today.
Yeah, please.
So I think this is a good thing.
I feel like I should step down on it. Okay, so these next two things kind of go together, and this is where I want to just take this time to talk through what we did last week and see if we can't create some more shape around that. So if that's something we can share on the screen, Lisa, I think that might be,
Last week's?
no,
board?
this
Oh,
thing.
is that not it? Oh, your other document,
Yeah.
yes, of course.
So, and if Julie, did we email it to Julie as well?
I think you did.
Because then she could
Yeah,
probably
and then I
just
don't
follow
need
along
to
by
share it,
looking
yeah,
on the.
that's better, okay.
thing.
All right, let's get this reduced down.
So, I wanna start by saying I don't want anyone to be like, overwhelmed by this document itself, because it can come off kind of dense. Excel is kind of my world. I live in Excel spreadsheets all the time. But we use them to do these, is anybody familiar with the term A3 in lean? So an A3 is literally an 11 by 17 sheet of paper. So this is an A3. So, I do a lot of lean management system training and consulting. And so lean comes from the Toyota production system. That's where it historically came from, but it's used widely in all industries now. It's really big in healthcare all over the world, and it's gotten bigger and bigger in higher education, which is what I'm in. And an A3 is just a common tool. It literally and figuratively gets everybody on the same page, because you use one single document to tell your story. And again, I think the reason I kind of gravitate towards these things is because there's a story in every one of these things, and I like stories. So because otherwise, I don't know why would I, with a theater background, be into Excel spreadsheets. So what I did last week, while we were talking about the things that were on the board, I just started tracking these along the side of the A3. And then as we were, I took a look at everything that we had talked about and said, well, how could we boil this down a little bit? And so I just took a stab at a purpose statement and then simplifying kind of those categories of inputs that we have. And another thing I want to say right now is none of this is set in stone. I'm just throwing things out there as kind of a rough draft to give you an idea of how we can work with this thing. So purpose statement, everything, we mentioned this last time that we met. In order to deliver on that purpose, we need to have these major inputs. Like to bake a cake, you gotta have a recipe, you gotta have an oven, you gotta have a baker, and you gotta have all the ingredients. And that's kind of how we look at this. So in order to have an arts commission, you gotta have the right people, you gotta have money, you have to have art, whatever. And that's kind of what we're trying to do here. So I took a stab at our purpose statement up here. So that says, to express the spirit of our community through the development of arts throughout the city. That's just something for, to let us bounce off of that, and we can, again, I'm not married to that, it can be whatever we want, but was trying to take some of these things that we saw in the statements that we made last time. So in order to express the spirit of our community through the development of arts throughout the city, if that's our why, what are the main, yeah?
Okay. Should I have a question now, or should I wait?
Hang on one second.
Okay.
Let me just get through
Okay.
kind of the main framework.
Yeah.
But if that's our why, what are the main things we need? So like, what are the oven, the ingredients, the baker, that kind of thing. And so if you scroll down here and on your page, you see these kind of color-coded things. This is, again, just me trying to like categorize based on what I'm seeing, sorting and setting things in order. Can you scroll down just a little bit there, Lisa? And then, and over a little bit too. But so anything that was green, I thought, well, that has something to do with collaboration with other groups. So meeting with diverse community leaders, engaging with the business community, connecting with the council and commissions, learning from other cities who have done this same thing. And then anything that was blue had to do with money. There was one thing, that's kind of one big thing. And then purple had to do with, the art itself. And then the orange had something to do with standards and processes within how we do it, okay? So in a sense, it's kind of like, this is sort of like the people. The funding sources is sort of like the like the oven, I don't know, maybe the Artisan Ideas are the ingredients, and the documents and standard processes are like the recipe, you know? So when you then, if you could scroll back over to the left here, Lisa, and then if we go down, so, go up all the way a little bit here first. So you take each one of these separately. So if you just talk about collaboration, so these are all the people involved. So I broke that down to be, so you got community representation. We want to make sure that we're connecting with people throughout the city of North St. Paul. You know, non-government people, just the people. So is that schools and churches, youth groups, just residents at large? And then the business community, how are they represented? North St. Paul Business Association, Chamber of Commerce, Main Street businesses, is that a separate group? You got intergovernmental cetera. So that's where we've got council, planning commission, all the way to state representatives, et cetera. And then external research, et cetera. And then it's the same thing as you go down. So if you see it, it's kind of printed out if you can even read that. But for each one of these, just starting to think about what are the different pieces within each of that. So steady funding sources, state and local funds, business funds, fundraising, you know, are there going to be, how are we going to do all these things? And what I'd like to get to, if we could, by the end of the meeting today, is to get some idea of what does this shape feel like, what should be added to this, and then some idea of where do we need to prioritize our efforts first. Mm-hmm. So the first thing we do is probably not going to be getting a mural painted on Love Ice Cream. The first thing we're going to do are probably going to be more of those foundational things that have to do with collecting or connecting with the intergovernmental agencies, documenting more of our standards and processes, like how are we going to go about this, doing more research, things like that. We're really in this forming stage, right?
This is awesome.
So how does this hit you so far? It's not a very artistic document. Sorry.
It can't be. It has to be a solid foundation for us to facilitate the art to happen.
That was awesome.
How does the color coding play into the chart itself?
So that other color coding means nothing, the stuff that's on the
I
side.
think it's, so like this one goes here, and
No,
this one
that
goes
doesn't,
here.
does this play into here? This color coding here, does it play into this document?
No, it won't. It was just that this was just how I coded our notes to break them down into different groups. But then of these 4 groups, those ended up in the 4 sections. These are
Got it.
4 directional statements.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep. So if we wanted to, you could actually implement the color code into here with the directional statement.
Sure, you could, but it doesn't signify anything.
Sure.
What we do with these type of documents then are rate things red, yellow, green, based on current state, okay? So now we can take a document like this and say, okay, if this is what we want this to look like, so say we're on documenting standards and processes, and we have commission standards, membership and roles, how would we rate that, red, yellow, green, based on where we're at right now? Green means we're in good shape, we have members, we know what our roles are, things like that. Yellow means there's maybe some questions, we're not so sure. Red means we're missing some key element there that's not right.
Well, at this point, we'd be right across the board because we're,
You're right, Lisa, a lot of these things, when we're just starting, a lot of it, it's almost not even worth rating, because everything is red, you're just getting going. But the reds in some ways kind of help you say, well, where is the biggest risk, where's the biggest need? Mm-hmm. And it just kind of helps you focus and prioritize. And then over time, you're absolutely right, because then over time, you could say 6 months from now, a year from now, you go and rate this thing, and you say, hey, we're really cooking on this, 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 and this. Those are all green. But these things, we really need to spend more time focusing on this, this, and this. And then this is a guiding document for us to help us make sure that, the commission is in good shape.
And I would suggest, on that specific one, maybe none of the others, but on that specific one, we're maybe yellow, maybe even into the green. We've got our members, we have roles, there's our meeting cadence we talked about, we're pretty
Yeah, so you
good
can
on
say,
that one.
so,
I feel
like, Lisa, if you go into that cell right there, you can click, you can click on either both of those cells and just fill it with green. Okay.
Nope, that's yellow.
There you go. So now, we can, this is, it's very unfinished. But some of these other things, then we can start to look at that and say, well, okay, well, now we've got kind of our list of things that are important for us to bake our cake. What do we need to, we got to run to the grocery store and grab some things. What do we got to do?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's-
So I'm on X4. Should I have been on X1 for that?
Well,
No.
that's fine. It's all just kind of used as an example. This one, that X1 was a little bit more fleshed out just because, some of these things are just kind of self-evident.
Got
You
a
had a
question.
question earlier about the
Yeah.
purpose or?
Yes.
Mhm.
What happened to culture? It always gets
You
left
know,
out, and do we want it?
That's, I don't know how the word culture ever got into the commission. Do you
That was
know?
me.
That was you?
I said, what about culture?
Okay.
And they're like, okay.
Okay, so,
From my perspective, I think, to highlight the culture that lives here, which is evolving.
uh-huh,
And so it goes back to that identity piece, which a lot of people find themselves in art, right?
Yeah.
So, just a way for culture to come through art and vice versa, to engage different cultures in art.
now we know.
That's all I-
Okay,
So-
so it's the Arts and Lisa Commission. No.
Would the statement to express the spirit and culture of our community through the development of the arts throughout the city be appropriate with what your intention was?
I mean, we're at the point where, that I think you all are kind of creating it too, but that was just the general direction, but it does sound good.
Yeah, I mean, because one thing we can't really create is culture.
We can express it.
We can express it though, right, so where you place the word, I think, makes sense.
Is culture singular? Yeah, I'm wondering if it's cultures. Or spirit, I could
Just
see. It's
cultures
one
kind of
thing,
sounds like
but-
something you're doing with yogurt or something.
Depends on who you ask.
Let's try that, let's try plugging in Stacy's recommendation. Can, up on the top, to express the spirit and culture of our community? Was that how you said that, Stacy?
Yes.
Plural, did we decide?
No, we didn't. I don't know if we decided, but,
So, so I'm a big communications geek, and words and rhetoric are really powerful and important.
Right.
I have a concern with the word spirit, because as it's defined, it's attitudes of a particular period. And so is it something that, like, are we really trying to express a particular period, or are we trying to enhance our community?
Yeah, well,
Like, that's
I've never heard spirit expressed or defined in
So
that
the
particular
second
manner.
definition in the dictionary is those qualities regarded as forming the definitive or typical elements in the character of a person, nation, or group, or in the thought and attitudes of a particular period.
I think it kind of fits in that regard.
Okay.
I think part of it too is highlighting the history here. There is a time and period of history here that people bring up over and over, and I would expect that would be something that you'll see in some of the artwork as well. Maybe that's what the spirit is alluding to, is that time bound
Yeah, I think culture does that too. I mean, the word culture.
Yeah, shared norms,
Mhm.
shared.
So as a noun, culture is the arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. It's a
I
pretty
like-
Yeah,
cool
I like
that's
that
noun.
close,
definition,
right,
yeah.
that's what we're,
So maybe both should be plural. Because if we're like, is that grammatically incorrect?
It feels
Sounds
funny,
weird.
yeah,
It-
because
it does.
to me, I feel like spirit can represent more than one, and the same thing with culture, but maybe
Sure.
maybe I'm wrong.
It
But
could
to
be
say to
plural
the
without-
spirits and cultures doesn't really trip off the tongue as easily.
I support it either way.
can we think a little bit about this?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
As a
So-
diehard introvert, I need a little time.
So, generally speaking though, somebody came up with this thing when we met before about expressing who we are, which was really great, because I was like, that's great, I didn't even think about it, I was just like, I want nice things to look at. And so I really keyed in on that one, and I think it's a really great way to talk about this work and how we try and move forward in the community with it. That it's like, hey, it's not the Arts and Culture Commission doing this, it's we're making the visions and the spirit of the community of you come out. Kind of like, Trudy, you had the example of, where is it, River Falls, or where you were?
Oh,
Somebody
yeah.
puts up a big sculpture and it's like, what does this have to do with us?
It was like a palm tree, it didn't belong.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, maddening.
Confusing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, everything doesn't have to do with like, look, you're never gonna cover the sort of cultural heritage of every person that lives in the city, right? But what are some things that may be sort of emblematic of us, given our history or the makeup of our current demographics and things like that?
So I might be going way off base here, but I am thinking about the concept of uniting people instead of trying to separate different cultures. Like, we
Mhm.
want to recognize everybody, but we want unity.
Yeah.
So, what are some thoughts about?
So I think pushing back on that, people will be united when all of their cultures are recognized. I think it's easy to try and think one identity does encompass all, but in doing that, you're excluding so many people because it doesn't. It's the reality of being human in today's society. I get concerned about groupthink to buy into one identity being representative of everyone. Because I just think there's too high of a potential of being exclusionary, even if it's not intended.
Well, I didn't, was that what you were saying?
No, just, and I'm not very good at expressing my idea on this, but I would be concerned about maybe some, not competitiveness, but just that clashing where we're not uniting, where how would you explain that?
Right.
Being divisive. You don't
Yes.
want the divisiveness. That's where I think that if you don't give everyone an opportunity to have that voice, I think that's where the divisiveness comes in.
What a great place for conversation too, because here's the thing too, is that art is divisive.
It's true.
Like anything you put up, there are gonna be people that hate it.
Mm-hmm.
There are gonna be people that think it's fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you, there's people that hate that snowman. And
Too late.
yeah, like, how could But you know, but that's the nature of art itself too, you know, it's a unique expression. And, you know, and I think, but I do think this is the value of us doing this kind of work, is having these discussions and trying to get the voices of everybody. But look, everything that we do as some artistic expression in the city will not be representative of the spirit and culture of everyone in the city.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where when we get into the fourth input here, where we're talking about something like our processes and, you know, like how do we select certain things, like what's off limits and what's not. Because some people, a lot of artistic people would say, nothing should be off limits.
Mhm.
Absolutely nothing. Everything counts. And is that where we want to be? And maybe we do, maybe we don't. But but on the other side, there will be people it'll be so safe with everything that they do that it will all be boring.
Okay. I've had time to think.
Okay.
All right. Inspire connection and community through the development of public art and cultural expression.
Well, I like that. Did you write that down?
I did.
Okay. Let's just write it
Wait,
off
I don't
to
know if
this.
everybody likes
Can
that.
you write it off like over here, Lisa, and then we can just look at that one?
I did, and I also want to challenge our group. I don't think our intentions are to create divisiveness ever.
Mhm.
I don't think that that's healthy to try and do that. However, I think each and every one of us should embrace if someone does have a problem with whatever is done and be excited about it, because that is the spirit of art in some way.
Exactly.
And in some ways, from a positive lens, welcome it. I would love to hear more, thank you, let's talk. Like, taking that approach is hard, and it's not
Yeah.
often a road that is taken.
No, I agree.
Because it's easy to get defensive.
But absolutely, I couldn't agree more that it would never be our intention to purposefully be divisive.
And to be welcome of criticism, because that's sparking a conversation that we could all, like, that the community
And
as
I
a
think
whole could learn from.
that is my thought of, rather than drawing attention and trying to acknowledge, I don't mean not acknowledge, but try not really make such a focus on that, but focus more on what we can provide. This is what we have, this is who we are, and this is who we are, and it's everybody. And not so much of trying to touch base on every single culture, because we are all one.
But with differences that matter and that help us sort of bring our true selves to this blend. But Pam, can I read it again?
Yes, I'm going to type it.
All right. Inspire connection and community. And it was important for me that came first, because to me that's the goal. Pretty
Yes.
art is second. It's the why. So inspire connection and community through the development of public art, and I felt it was important to make that distinction. Public art and cultural expression.
Exactly, that's my point, is we are public art. I mean, that's who we are public.
Right.
So, yeah, the only thing I would bring up about this, because I did have the term public art in there when I was first drafting this thing, and
okay.
I thought, well, okay, because like my intention was like, this is all about like public visual
Cultural expression.
art. Does, can that also encompass performing arts if we are to ever go that way?
Totally.
Think that covers that,
Yeah,
public art?
because it's the public can
It's just
go.
available to the public, yeah,
Right.
not like, I always think of public art as being like something out in the square.
Oh, see, and I was thinking, I wanted to make the distinction, it doesn't work if it's in my backyard.
Yeah, right.
I would love it, sign me up, I'll take the grant, but it's for everyone to be able to
Okay.
have
Accessible
access
to the
to.
public domain.
Right.
Okay, yeah, and so all you feel that covers that? Which is great, because it's not specifically saying performing arts, but it's also not
Why don't you
saying it doesn't.
swap out public with accessible? Because that is a good word, you need it to be accessible, or is that being too descriptive?
I think acceptable is gonna be.
Accessible.
Accessible.
Oh, I thought you said acceptable, I'm like, yeah, we're never gonna get there.
I'm not when I think of that, the first thing I think of is the wheelchair, which I know was
Yeah.
not where that was going. But then I think it's vanilla. You know, accessible art is the art that nobody will object to. And I know that's not what you meant.
Yeah.
Well, trying to encompass
In
that,
that context, yeah.
that context of what public is without boxing it into a statue in a square.
Yeah, so, okay, I really like that, Trudy. We have two things that we can noodle on.
Exactly.
We don't have to decide today, but maybe at our next meeting, let's pick. And that'll be homework for everybody between now and 2 weeks from now. But I think we're there. We're pretty dang close to zeroing in on something. What do you think, Julie?
And I apologize, I slow to come off mute. It's a good discussion. I'm having trouble hearing some of the speakers other than Tom and Trudy.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to withhold my comments.
Okay, we'll try and be louder too.
Oh, okay, thanks.
But we'll have homework for you, Julie. We'll spell it out for you later. It's all on paper.
Thanks.
So, okay. Feel like we're getting close on that? It's kind of a big deal.
Another word.
The one thing I like about it is it feels kind of like it feels substantive. Sometimes you get into these things that are like mission statements, and they become so wordy, and everything feels kind of like empty words. You know, it's just it's too much. So I think we got some good lead here. Let's think about the inputs now. Do these seem like the right inputs based on the elements that we had talked about last time?
I think so. I think they really boiled it down to exactly what we talked about. We have to have funding, we have to clarify that. We're nothing without artists.
Are we talking about inputs under the first one or all the inputs?
So so if you look at the Stacy on the right where the four things, so broad collaborative representation, which is the name that I gave to the four different things that I think that had something to do with collaborating with different groups. Steady funding sources, which is just the name that I gave to pipeline for funding projects. Artisan Ideas, which is the name of the bucket that I gave to that for network of artists and canvases. And then documented standards and processes, which has to do with the standards and processes part that came up. So, because if you feel like those things make sense as kind of the broad buckets, then I think we can go back to this document and say, okay, so if the first one is broad collaborative representation, let's make sure we have everything there that we mean by that. You know, so we talked about different groups throughout the community, the business support, intergovernmental connection stuff, okay? And then we can just add or subtract as we need to.
Tom, what does PDCA mean?
Plan, do, check, adjust, or plan, do, check, act. So when you look at all of these columns here, in the A3 itself, what you would do is say, with everything, you say, this is the thing, and this is the purpose of that thing. Like, why is community representation important? You know, to ensure the voices of various, people in the residents in the community are. Why do we need business community support? Why do we need intergovernmental connectivity, et cetera? And then it has directional input outcomes, directional input ownership, and then PDCA. So the PDCA is really like, how do we check on that? How are we measuring it? How do we know how that's functioning? But you know, the ownership could be a good thing. This is where we can kind of clarify further some of those roles on the team. So if we say, hey, you know, the intergovernmental connectivity, we're really going to ask Lisa Wong to own that, to help us connect with the different commissions and the council, and what would be the best way to do that. And then the business community support, maybe that would be, you know, Stacy's thing, that she's going to connect with the business association, chamber of commerce, et cetera, whatever. But we don't have to get into all that detail right now, or even ever, if it's too much. But right, you know, if we just go with the 4, we can cut off the bottom 2 segments of this thing, and we can cut off that stuff on the right because it's all in there, and broaden this, and it'll actually be readable.
I really like this, it's helpful.
Good.
Can you implement that into our community development department?
Oh my God. Like I said, Lisa, I tried to bring some of this to the council in the past, and I didn't get a lot of bites.
I'm sorry.
It was a tough. You weren't
That was
here
before
then.
her time.
Yeah, that's right.
Still, sorry.
Yeah.
Government, you know, if there's any organization that could benefit from being, yeah, it would be government. And I really wanted to get that one. I'm gonna have to push our new police chief to get some data, because their last one I pushed him all the time, and I just.
We asked for quite a bit of data last night. and we
Good.
needed- Yeah, we need more data.
At least it would say, I'm hearing from people in the community that crime is out of control in North St. Paul. Is it?
I wanna see how many calls, what the nature of the calls are. and
Did you
then
guys hear
full-
about the shooting the other night?
Where?
By Hosey Power.
Not over here.
Yeah. My son tried leaving the house wearing a gray hoodie and black shorts this morning, and he's doing the North St. Paul football blitz right now, and I made him change because of that description.
Oh, no, really?
Because
I didn't
it's
hear
a
anything
kid,
about
and I'm pretty sure I saw this person in front of my house the other night on a bike, because it's a suspicious looking person when you see the picture, and if you saw that person biking down your street, you'd notice.
Huh.
Because it was the hood up, the mask, covered in the gray hoodie all the way down, black backpack tight to his back,
Ugh.
you know, really just looking, right?
Hmm.
But you can't, I'm not gonna, at that point in time, nothing happened, but I had to explain to him why he has to change. He said, but I don't have a gun, and I go, I know you don't, but police don't, and if there's people in the neighborhood that are on the hunt, they don't know, and I don't want to take the risk.
So, this is the directional input PDCA, this is where this comes into play. So we might look at this and say, business community support, well, that's all well and good to have that on your piece of paper, but when do you meet? With whom do you meet? How often? You know, those types of things. This is saying, this is how we maintain this, and then there's some robust,
I could see spending some chunk of time just talking about this quadrant here. And what I often do with that is this 2x2 grid in terms of who really has a lot of influence versus who we actually have a chance of getting to, and see where they fall.
mm-hmm. Like doing a 4 square of, for the whole collaborative representation thing, you mean, or
For like a stakeholder
Mm.
analysis.
Right, yeah.
So to see,
Shall I
because
draw it?
Because we can spend a lot of time trying to get people that we just can't get to.
Right.
And there might be other people that,
So there are things that, yeah, and there may be, I think that's a good point, but what we want to have on here are the things that are must-dos.
right,
Like, these must be a part. And so I think, like, community representation, business community support, intergovernmental connectivity, those three for sure. I mean, we can't function properly without having those things. And then external research and guidance, well, that's just smart to do it, you know. Can we create an arts and culture commission without talking to other people who have done the same thing? Yeah, but, so I think that's a great idea, Trudy, but what we want to have on here are the things that,
Thank you, Lisa, I will take a
Will
picture
the
of that
bottom
for
one be
future
just
use.
accessibility?
or accessibility, yeah.
Yeah.
That seems to be way more than a name.
Accessibility.
Yes,
Acceptability.
exactly.
Right, Lisa.
Okay. Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just take a shot here on the collaborative representation. Did these seem like the right inputs there? Community, and we can take these one at a time. Like, should we care about community representation?
Yes.
Okay. Should we care about that type of representation from schools and churches? Okay. Youth groups, I don't know. I don't know if there are youth groups.
I don't either.
You know.
Yeah.
And
Or are we talking about like after school programs or like the
Well, there's,
scouts?
I was gonna say, there's still Boy Scouts and there's a
Scouts, yeah.
few, sport groups.
The volleyball team?
yeah, I threw that on there because I'm like, I don't know, what would the,
Baseball team?
who would the groups be? Like, in the community, if they are not governmental or business groups?
Right. Oregon, like nonprofit?
Yeah, and so then if they're not schools or churches too.
Yeah.
So then it's kind of like, so there's sports, there's scouts.
I don't know if this is the right time to bring this up, but I did read most of the ordinances.
Wow.
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 Super fun, super great. And I learned that, boards and commissions of the city are allowed to engage with a student member who is a North St. Paul resident. They're a non-voting member. They need to be a full-time secondary student and they serve 1 year per term. So I don't know that we're at the part where we could engage with someone like that, but I would really love to see us work towards that sometime in the future.
Yeah,
Because
that's a good idea.
having a kid, I mean, having that perspective would be super cool, and
So-
that would be a great representation. of
Yeah,
it.
that's like a schools and churches thing. I think under schools and churches, like, we could say, well, we want to rate that yellow, maybe, because we say, hey, there's an opportunity there. And we rate it yellow not because it's bad, just because it's like, hey, we want to draw our attention to that, we
Yeah,
remember
right.
that. And then we can take that as an action item off to the side to say, on this thing, on directional statement 1, directional input 1, item 2, whatever, we want to find a high school representative, right? It just helps you.
4-H or whatever.
Yeah, 4-H, does anybody do 4-H around here?
I work at the extension office, so.
Oh, yeah.
I know, yeah, and then one of the 4-H coordinators actually is a North St. Paul resident, so.
No way,
That's awesome.
that's cool.
They're around.
Can we also look at the other end of the age spectrum
Mhm.
and try to target
The seniors.
the seniors?
Polar Red, yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so, youth groups, so that would be like, senior groups, right?
Mhm.
I'm also just trying to think of what are we missing here?
Just like
Yeah,
having to
older
control
adults.
this again.
An indigenous community at all in North St. Paul, or a specific, like, I don't know, something that's, you know what I mean? It's hard, because I don't know if any, like, who's a none of us are necessarily members of that community, and that's an assumption on my behalf.
That's what
but-
I'm wondering, like, what are we missing at this table?
Yes, and I think we're missing a lot at this table.
Right.
Are there social services organizations
Yeah.
that are part of the nonprofits that do connect with those groups?
Yeah, I have a new client actually that's a social service organization, they're just across in White Bear,
Huh.
but they might have a lot of contacts here.
I know the school district has their own groups based on different identities, so they might be able to help us.
So, an action item on there, right? So we can take away from that, like, how to get, how to build representation in diverse groups.
Yeah, it'd be nice to know, I'm sure it's out there somewhere, I just don't know where to look. Sort of what is the makeup of our population?
Wow, the new census.
The new census, exactly.
If you look in
Exactly.
even, yeah, so there's the census, and if you also look in our, what's the big thing we just put together last year?
Comp plan?
The comprehensive plan might have some
Oh,
of that
right.
stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cause I, like, GLBTQ plus I, or whatever, like, that's a very encompassing group of individuals. Do they have representation in your city? Is that a group worth engaging? Like,
Yeah.
those are,
There.
I'd like to say yes, but I don't know, because I don't see any
Yeah,
representation in our city.
Yeah.
From, as far as like, group organizations.
Non-apparent,
Yeah, it's more subversive, or perhaps our community members are traveling to South Minneapolis, or traveling to other places that have a larger culture. But that doesn't mean that that's not important.
Right.
Because this is where they live, right?
Yeah, so what if we did something like this, Lisa? If you go, click on number 1, right next to community representation, let's rate that one red. I mean, it seems like there's just a big need here,
Not to learn.
because we don't know right now really who any of these groups are. Who do we contact? Who are schools and churches is a little easier, but senior groups, residents at large, it's like, well, what do we mean by that? Well, is that like surveys that we put out to the community? Is it, how do we kind of build some of that input? I can tell you, like, when we were working on the comprehensive plan, they did all kinds of advertising, sent mailers out, did all this stuff for, what were they called, like, community cafes or something like that. We'd meet at different parks or here or wherever, open to all the public to come and talk about some certain aspect, and most of the time, no one came.
Mhm.
Was that on like Monday at 10 a.m.? When
No,
everyone's
no.
That was usually in the
Because that was
evening.
what was,
Wow.
like, with the coffee with the mayor, drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Because I can't meet him at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday because
Yeah.
I'm at work.
No,
Like,
these were all in the evening, I think. And they're-
Oh, recently,
This is a couple of years ago.
There's probably just I skimmed it when I first moved here, but I bet just a treasure of information
In the
There
comp
in
plan.
that
There is,
document.
and it's
Okay.
a, well,
Okay.
it's a very easy to read document.
Yeah.
Isn't there a Rotary in North St. Paul Rotary? That would be another.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question, is there? I don't know.
Yeah, a friend of mine's on that.
They're getting
So
older,
isn't that
but
a
they're
self-organized group though, Lisa? That's not a city-appointed group, correct?
Rotary,
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Lions
so.
Club.
yep.
which is okay, because we're not talking about the governmental things. And maybe that, isn't a Rotary like a business thing? Or no? Because we could add that under business community support, Rotary.
I think it's a service organization.
Right.
They're international, so I don't know
Yeah.
if they're 501c3.
My brother-in-law's a big Rotary guy, maybe I can ask him, what is that?
They raise money for like polio
Yeah.
and things like that, but they also bring light to kind of local events, and they bridge both international and local issues.
Yeah. should we put that one under business community support, Rotary?
Business community, we'll try to do that. I'm having a hard time accessing the cells.
That's so weird.
Let me just see if I can.
Huh.
No, that's not what I wanted. All right, I'm sorry, so Rotary Club?
Yeah.
Ooh, that doesn't look good. That looks like it's a weird format on there.
Try and just hit enter and see what happens.
Okay.
There we go. So, business community support, this one at least, we have some sense of who the players are. So we could kind of, do these look like the right players in the business community? Is there, do you know, these are like isn't there kind of like a Main Street business community or business group?
There is a business association.
But is the business association really centered around Main Street,
I
downtown?
would say most of the businesses that are Main Street are there.
Okay.
Downtown.
So maybe we don't need the Main Street
I would,
separate?
yeah, probably not.
Okay.
And I believe Mayor Furlong is the contact for the business association.
Okay.
Thorson's not on there. There are other businesses that are probably worth connecting with, that are, some immigrants of color and immigrants and people of color who own businesses, particularly next to the Target and that shopping center.
Right.
Mayor and I went around during COVID and said, you applied for PPP loans, things like that. So we did make some relationships there.
Good.
There are lots of opportunities with like some of the adult daycare centers. I think there's 2 here now.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun actually, the adult daycare centers.
I was gonna put a strike through that and still leave it on there in case you wanted to change your mind. I
Oh,
just
that's
wanna try
okay.
to identify the changes, but
I gotcha.
how do anybody know how to put a red line, how to red line it?
You go to formats.
Oh, format.
Yeah, go back on to your, the home.
Review, the home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then under, you kind of do that drop down arrow there.
On the font?
Yeah. And then you got strike through down there.
Okay, right there. Okay. Thank you.
What
All right.
about that volleyball club that moved into the community center? I always say it wrong. Thank you. That might be a good
Yeah, I mean,
youth group.
yeah, they have a lot of youth. They run over 20 teams.
Wow.
They're quite the operation. I think, it's definitely worth having a conversation with them about it. Tim and I are working with them right now, so we can see where that goes, yeah.
Are they still interested in buying the building?
We're working on that arrangement right now. I don't think the price is there, but they want to stay with us.
You want to stay there? Okay.
And great facilities.
Okay, intergovernmental connectivity, does that look like the right collection?
What about the library?
County?
County?
What about Ramsey County?
Yes, county library, yeah. Okay.
Kind of art workshops for community out of the library.
Mhm.
That was
Probably
like
already
such-
doing stuff.
Yeah, there was such fun summer programs with art.
So we could add Ramsey County Library on there.
Boy, I wish I had my mouse.
If you want to just put a note anywhere on there too, at least I can fix it later.
I think Tom did.
What about external research and guidance? So all I had is other metro or outstate arts commissions, League of Minnesota Cities. You know, really just focused around kind of the how-to on this, I guess, and I suppose this could just as well, I don't know, this probably makes sense here.
A little biased, but being from Extension, I would take a look at what Extension has to
Yeah.
offer in their community vitality work. A lot of their work is around downtown revitalization.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Arts and business.
So my boss used to work for U of M Extension,
Oh, yeah.
and so he's always bringing it, and especially when I was on the council, he was like, well, you know, when I was at the Extension, and I was like,
What's his name?
Dixonese. Doesn't ring a bell?
Is Century College in North St. Paul? No, it's across the border. Are there any higher, yeah,
No, but the district has a lot of, classes that you can do, what do they call it in the
Six,
schools?
1-6 or something. There is a high
Northeast Metro 916,
916.
but that's a collaborative of Northeast schools that take classes at Century.
Yep.
But they also have college in the schools, where they
Yeah.
invite the University of Minnesota in.
Did I miss one down here?
I
No.
feel like,
I don't
yeah,
think
I was just right there on my paper trying to remember, what did we just say? Oh, the U of M Extension Service, that's
We do
it.
work with Century
Okay.
College and 916.
Right, with
the
the,
student built housing.
okay.
So, that's something, Chris Sculpture knows yours.
Oh,
Yeah, that'd be
yeah.
awesome.
Absolutely.
This is a student built home, like this is how we designate that. Not sure if
Okay.
it's private property, but
So we're gonna add U of M Extension Service here. Anything else on this external, or anything else under collaborative representation? Are there any other groups or areas that we should be connecting
We
with?
were talking just now, and I'm not gonna know the acronyms, but related to higher education.
Century College, and 916.
the
Where did
people
that
do
go?
the, student built housing.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's through Century College, right?
916.
Northeast
and
Metro 916.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where, I participated in Northeast Metro 916 through Roseville, that's the only reason why I know of it.
Okay.
And when I was a senior in high school, I took an EMT course,
Mm.
and
Okay.
That school used to be called 916 Vo-Tech,
Mm-hmm.
and then it became Lakewood Community College.
College.
And then it became
Interesting.
Century College.
Huh.
so they call the program where high schools are, where the high schools are involved still is called Northeast Metro 916.
Mm.
But it could have changed since I graduated 20 years ago, so.
So we can have, so we have schools under community representation,
Oh, yeah.
so we can have that, or unless you want to add another,
I'm just gonna have to make a note of that, cause this spreadsheet is not cooperating
Yeah.
with me. So that's under number 4, external.
yeah. Anything else we need for collaborative representation? Any other like major inputs there? So just the first one is really talking about just various people that live here, or, go to school here, or whatever. The next one is the business side, the next one is government, and then the next one is external support.
I think nonprofit should go under business community support, because a nonprofit is a business, right?
It kind of, yeah,
So which, like,
Yeah.
what nonprofits?
with a few important
Well,
Caring for cats.
changes.
I mean, they're right downtown.
Well, yeah,
They're
that's,
here.
that's business community, I mean,
Yeah.
even if they're a 501c3 or a nonprofit.
could we put nonprofits in red to research more?
Sure,
Like
yeah.
what nonprofits exist?
For sure.
We saying under the business community for that one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Century College also has an arts well, they have let's see,
Right.
fine and performing arts at the school.
yeah. Okay, let me just, I want to do a time check here, so we got 20 to 8. And look, we can go all night, I don't know what you're up for. But what I'd really love to come away from this meeting with is a couple of action items on what we could get started on. So let's make some connections, let's do some of this stuff, let's start taking action. I think, so we can keep going through these 4 things, but one of the things I feel like is like the Artisan Ideas is what I'm kind of the least concerned about to get started, because I think we have plenty of that, or I mean, ideas are flowing all the time already. And fundraising, I think, is going to be a longer term thing, but then our standards and processes, that's going to be something. So do you want to just kind of keep going through this, or should we pick a couple?
Oh, I was just gonna add something to funding. We are in our budget process right now for the city, and so we are hoping for some startup money, and we're just looking at asking for $5,000 right now. If there are any
For us, for the Arts Commission?
for us,
Yeah.
Well, we need something to work with.
I didn't think we'd get anything.
I know.
Culture
Arts and
Commission.
Culture.
Yes.
Well, I didn't even know we'd get anything from the
Yes.
council.
Well, it's worth, we're
Okay.
negotiating right now, but it likely will come out of the park fund, so something to think about.
Okay.
But, more justification
Annual
of how
budget.
we'll spend the money always helps to get the money.
Right.
So,
I
the
know
more,
Terry wants those snowman things.
Really
Trudy does not.
What?
I'm just joking.
I like the snowman.
It's
It's quirky.
No, the snowman,
Snowman around town, like the
Snoopy
Snoopy's.
one.
Yeah.
Oh, snowman all
That's what
around
Terry
town.
wants?
Yeah.
Really?
That's how you get
Like little
businesses
snowman
involved, though,
I
because
know.
they're the ones who fund it,
I know.
right?
Oh.
and the funny thing is, it's like,
Huh.
I want to have an arts commission so we can give public art in the city, but the last thing is one of them goddamn things like those Snoopy things, because everybody's already done that thing.
Well, you have to tell Terry that.
And then, so
That's
what's
funny.
the first thing Terry said? He's like, I got a lead on some snowman things we can do. I'm like, Terry, that's the one thing I didn't want to have.
Roseville did the roses though
I know,
recently, and they're beautiful, like.
Everybody's
you've
done
seen
their
them
different
everywhere.
things.
There's bears all over White.
Yes.
In people's front yards.
There's even a bear in one of our front yards.
Yeah.
They have flags too, if you go to the lake, people have like a little white bear lake
Oh,
flag
yeah.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now there are people around town who have these little snowman cutouts.
I just got mine this week.
There you
I
go.
figured I'm on the arts council, I might
How
as
do
well.
you-
Graphic traffic, you gotta
Oh.
text Paul, I'll set you up with my bud.
What does it mean?
I don't know, it's just cute.
You just represent.
It's just
Yeah.
cute.
Okay.
Oh,
Represents
yeah.
your
It's
spirit for North
That's
Central.
right.
It's
True.
just a way to.
Huh.
It's an expression of your spirit and culture.
That's right.
I have an expression of my spirit and culture through a sign that says science is real, kindness.
Ah, there you go.
Oh, I have that
Women's
one
rights are
too.
equal, right? That's how I
There you
express
go.
my culture.
Last summer I was gonna put up a Black Lives Matter and I support North St. Paul police signs next to each other in my yard. And I thought people would you know, blow a gasket or something like, you can't have both. And I'm like, no, I think you can.
Right.
I think you can. Anyway,
Do we ever get clarity on fundraising, if we have to ask before we go for
right.
grants, or if we can just go for it and be like, hey, look, we got a grant?
well, let's call that one red.
Okay.
So, well, we're into fundraising, so I have state and local funds, and so there's the Arts and Legacy, is that the name for that thing? I always
Yeah.
get that one mixed up with the tax thing, so
The legacy.
I think that's, you have familiarity with that,
A
right?
little bit,
Tapping
I mean,
into
there's
that.
this whole lobbying arm of the Humanities Center, and they just kind of feed information every now and then, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's a chunk of money.
Yeah, and I think we are all paying taxes for that, and I think that's this type of thing that we're doing is exactly what that money is for.
Yep. There's a timing to getting in there, and I'm not sure where the cycle is. right
Yeah,
now.
so that's the thing, we're gonna have to, we're red on that one, we're red on grants. We gotta kind of figure out what is this, where are the grants, how do we find them, who has the money?
Lisa, you mentioned that you put a $5,000 line item, or that a $5,000 line item is in existence or under proposal. What is the culture of North St. Paul's annual budget for those types of new line items? Like, I'm wondering, are we asking enough or too much, or?
That's why
like-
I would like, if
Yeah.
there's more we can hash out, I mean, we still have a little bit of time, but, we are looking to certify our budget maximum here,
So-
like next
Okay.
week or something, so.
I think then what we should do is try and talk to Terry and say, he's gotta have a ballpark. I've talked to him about this project, cause he's talked to the people directly. He'll tell you the whole story, but like, these are the people who originally met with Charles Schultz about doing the Peanuts thing in St. Paul and on and on. So
They probably worked through Tivoli too, who was a former tenant of mine in my commercial real estate days. Tivoli too creates like all the Great Wolf Lodge sculptures, and they
yeah.
did the Snoopies, and they did
Okay.
the.
So, anyways, maybe we could get a ballpark estimate from Terry on what that
He
would
said
look like? 5,000?
To
Okay.
get what?
To be able to do the snowman thing.
Well,
Really?
not the
That's-
snowman
Seems
thing,
like
I should
enough.
clarify for our ask. It's like, do you have a ballpark of what you think that would be, and he said about 5. And
Did-
so,
Dan mentioned, when I had inquired about the classes, the online classes, then he came back and said, FYI, we are putting some money into the budget, so you'll be able to utilize it for things like that.
Who said that?
Dan, the new
director.
finance director.
So he
And I
was
think it's
saying-
ultimately the city manager and finance director make the recommendation to council, and the council approves it. Is
Yeah,
that
but
correct?
anybody on the council can say, well, I think we should do this, and we should do this, It's all a lot of horse trading that happens in the budget meetings.
Yeah, so if there is a little bit more direction on how the funds will be spent, I think I can probably make a case.
The other question too is when this budget line item, best case scenario is approved, is it a use it or lose it situation, or is it a situation where the funds can roll over to the next year?
I would say use it, or you wanna spend down
Yeah.
your annual,
Yeah.
allocation.
Oh, that's fun.
And I'm not opposed to, making people happy who have money. So if the mayor is really into snowmen, let's do snowman, we'll make it great.
But-
And then we get in the local media and we start getting buzz about this and,
It's positive buzz, that's what we
Yeah,
want.
Well, and it could be snowmen that represent, like, we could target our groups, our different community groups to create the diversity, if we have money, knowing how much this is gonna cost.
So another thing I think is, to help kind of bump up that dollar amount, if the city is willing to participate in the budget for this commission, I think that, one thing that would not take long to have an impact would be some type of mural being done downtown. We know that we have interest from downtown businesses on that, and you can drop a few grand on a mural in a heartbeat. So, because you have to pay artists.
So one thing to consider too, and Lisa, you're at every meeting, I believe, so you know everything.
Three this week, couple next week.
One thing is, I do believe, if anything, that the money may be coming from the park fund, so my understanding is they may be looking into signage, or we talked about wayfinding, sign. They're gonna have an interest of wanting to do that for the park, so that might be a natural collaboration, but
Right.
also a little bit more of a fair trade in terms of, that's where their money probably will be going into, so how can we?
And to add that and to emphasize to it, to make everyone happy, because I'm a fixer, if we do proceed with a proposal for a snowman art thing, the businesses or sponsors, part of the proposal and the agreement to participate would be that the businesses or sponsors have this for X amount of time. We count the parks in North St. Paul, and at the end of the time, the snowmans get redistributed to different parks in North St. Paul for their final home and resting place.
Or they could be like auctioned up, like couldn't a business like buy it?
They could,
And this- so
maybe
they-
we
they-
could have an option for them to buy it back or
Yeah,
auction it
'cause-
off, but I think that if if we're taking money from the parks to help support some of these projects, this could be a way to do a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
Will we give
Mhm.
money, will we
Mhm.
give something back to the parks?
Those parks have got plenty of money. Yeah.
I have a really fun story to tell you. I'm sure you've all heard of the restaurant that's going in
Yeah,
downtown. So anyone that knows the history of North St. Paul, there used to be Max Dinette downtown, North St. Paul on Main Street. And there is a North High alumni that is opening a restaurant, and he is going to have the original Max sign.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Got
yes.
it?
Where
It's
was
in the
it?
works right now. Is it Gary Mulcahy? One Mulcahy's has it, and he's
Oh, my
going.
gosh.
So that's in the works right now. It's
That's
not
cool.
100% guaranteed, but Terry is working
Oh,
on it.
how about that?
And it's going to be named Max.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, very cool.
So why don't we add as a number 4 on there, just annual budget plan? So that would be a funding source. So what I've got in here is like state and local funds, and I'm including anything under there that we would write a grant for. And then business funds, like can we get the businesses to participate in any way? And that could be like, somebody was just saying, I know, like if we get these snowmen, they pay to have one or whatever the thing is, right? Development allocation, so this would be kind of the idea of like connecting with the planning commission and the council, so here we just missed like the most development that we've had in 60 years. But to write something in to new development that you have to pay a 1% arts and culture fee, because they pay a part, whatever.
I can take that to the planning commission tomorrow. And just let them know, that's what you all are considering.
So there's an action item right there, and we're gonna make
Lisa,
that green next time.
The other geeky finance question I have is what percentage of the parks budget is Terry thinking of allocating to us? Because that could be a percentage
So,
of whatever to be that fee, or whatever that, do you know what I mean, like for new development? If we wanna be strategic about this and say, we're not taking to take, we're taking and developing to be self-sustaining without taking from the parks? Or is that too far down?
so there's a couple of ways to look at this though. So, because the parks has a certain, and Lisa, correct me, but I don't know if the number is still the same, but the parks has some allocation that comes from our local government aid money every year. So LGA funds, so that's money that's distributed to us from the state every year, and it's not an insignificant amount of money. That money is supposed to go to things for the city that are these kind of unique needs that are not, you're not supposed to roll it into your general fund budget. It should be for like unique needs or expenditures that you have.
Handicap accessible parks.
Yeah, and so we had been rolling like $100,000 a year from local government aid into the parks. I don't know if that's still that same amount, but
Defined as parks improvement, or maintenance, or?
this is particularly
There's
what
separate
should be
budgets
for
for-
improvements, yeah. So it's
Okay.
like,
A lot of the maintenance falls under public works.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I thought.
So, there's different ways that you could look at it. Is are you, in some ways you're taking it from the parks, but you're also just reallocating government aid that goes to the city city in general to a different.
Based on a need, yeah,
Uh,
based on a need.
Yeah.
And it, it might, because that wouldn't be all of the money that we'll be getting. We're gonna
Yeah,
have different
right.
sources. So maybe that chunk of it we use in the parks. So there's, a snowman with the sign that has the directional
Yeah.
of where to go. So the mayor's happy, we've got the snowman in the park, parks are happy, and, I don't know, somewhere in back of it, there's a mural.
There you go.
Love it.
But
There's-
that could be different funding.
Sure, there's all different ways we could
Multiple
do it,
streams.
but yeah, we can, we can think about it, but I would say, is Terry's idea that the only way that we would get that money in the budget for the Arts and Culture Commission would be to reallocate funds that are currently going to the Parks Commission?
I would probably go ahead and confirm that with Dan, or he would be the person
Okay.
I would
Mhm.
need to check in with, but, my understanding is that's where the money will probably come from. I don't know for sure, but.
Because, look, the other thing is you can just say, well, no, we want $10,000 and the park, you can keep giving the parks whatever the park is getting. It's just, what's the overall impact on the budget then? So that's
Work on it.
it's just whatever the appetite for the council is. What is it like, for every $50,000, it's another % levy increase or something like that?
And we're getting a pretty substantial one this year
Right.
with everything that's
From a
going on
political
already.
standpoint too, if we still want new businesses to come here, adding more fees is not the way to do it. It's
Not
taking the current fees and minimizing it and then keeping them what they are, but redistributing percentages so that it's not more than what it's at.
You could, yeah, so again, like the percentage that's allocated to the parks, I mean, what did the parks get allocated for all of the development that just happened? There had to be a lot of money that went on the books for the parks after this apartment building.
But are those general use funds?
No, that's specifically for parks.
For
And
park
what-
general
what-
use?
tie it into
We do
the
need to look
development
into that, Tom, and
contract.
looking at our
That
project.
portion of that development
Yeah.
will be dedicated to parks
What?
specifically.
You don't know?
So it is
Okay.
kind of sustained based on whatever's happening in the city. Here's always the cut.
Anyway, okay, let's keep pushing. So we've got under here, state and local funds, business funds. I just wonder if we can't, approach some of the business association and say, hey, this is gonna drive traffic. We're gonna be pulling more people into town if we have these kind of artistic interest, what do they call it? Visual interest things or whatever that people could be drawn to. They're gonna come and see it and they're gonna come and spend money in your place. So maybe there's a way to raise some funds that way. Because I know those antique shops have gotta be just
Like an
brimming
art
over
walk.
with money. But,
Like an art walk or something.
Right.
yeah.
Well, in River Falls, they do an art walk that's then housed in the businesses. It's one of the art walks that they do, and so the artist goes there, and then you have this card that you get, and you get a stamp for everyone that you go to, and if you fill up your card, you're eligible for the raffle, and the businesses like it because then that means you've got more traffic going through the door, so.
Yeah.
Do they have to pay for the card?
No.
No,
Well,
I
the
don't
ones that I've been
think
on,
so,
there was no fee
yeah.
for the card, it was just an incentive to get you to go to every place.
Exactly.
Some places offer free booze and wine and
Mm.
cheese and all that.
How do I not know about these things?
Mhm.
Hanging out.
I have also fundraising, and I don't know what the rules would be around that. Like, can our commission just be like,
That's what we need as the council.
yeah, can we do fundraising? Can we do,
What parameters are they comfortable with us raising funds with?
Yeah.
So usually the park fund gets sometimes anonymous donations or donations from the community. We do
approve it and to accept.
Mm-hmm.
Does the Arts and Commission have a fund, or is that what Terry was writing into the budget?
Does what commission have a fund?
Our commission have a fund, cause like
Not,
there's the
not
art
currently,
fund.
but they're proposing
Yeah,
a
it would be about
$5,000
$2022, yeah.
for next year.
Well, that would be a creation of a fund with a $5,000 line item. That's
Correct.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and the tricky thing is though, is that the council can just move any of that stuff anywhere they want anytime. So the next time the budget comes around, it's like, well, we just won't have any money in that fund and we'll put it over here. So that's why the Parks Commission created kind of their own mechanism, and that is all tied to, that's what comes out of the utility bill, right? Where you wanna donate to the Parks Fund. So there's actually a park fund that money is expressly for the parks, and the council can't reallocate that money.
So that's where I propose us having a similar model, because art is always the first thing to get cut.
Yeah.
Or to get, like, if Terry's like generously, trying to move this line item through, and at the end of, whatever, they're 5,000 short somewhere and we haven't submitted expenses to it or what have you, swept, done, without that protection in place.
Yeah, so that's another thing we could consider is like, well, do we have a checkbox on your utility bill that says, I would like to donate $1 a month to the arts and culture?
We also have, online funding as well, donations, if people would like to make
Like
a one-time,
crowdfunding.
yeah, for the arts in our parks. Or not, excuse me, not
Oh,
our.
like on our
our-
city website?
Yes, city website does have for
Okay.
donating to the park fund. So they have specific funds if you wanna donate a memory bench or bench in someone's memory, a picnic table, I think there's a couple other things, or just into the general budget.
Can we get in on that? Can we add a line, I wanna donate to the arts council?
That's a, we would, I think we would need to propose that, make a
Hmm.
recommendation to the city council and see if we could get approval on that.
And then if someone makes a donation, is that tax deductible?
That our finance director would need to.
It might be easier to propose, I think the timing is hard right now.
Yeah.
Because we're still so new.
Yeah.
Right.
That we don't
Right.
have enough direction to
Yeah.
show the community what we
Yeah.
can do with their
Exactly.
donations.
It's a whole lot easier to ask for money when you have some specific exciting project.
Yeah,
That
Cause it's tangible,
you do, right?
cause right now it's way too abstract.
Right.
and-
yeah. And this year we can create the ideas and then next year at this time propose it for the following year's budget.
So, great conversation. So I think, do we think the main things covered under funding sources? I mean, we have a ton of stuff to figure out here. But state and local business, fundraising, and then annual budget planning. Does everything kind of fall under there somehow, one of those things? Okay, so then, well, let's take a minute here to have some fun and talk about like artisan ideas. I mean, do we have a few things in the pipeline that could kind of make a splash? I mean, I think the snowman thing it is what it is, and the mayor wants it, so, but, that's gonna be really visible, people recognize that, it's a safe thing, whatever. But could we have also some other things in the pipeline, like do we have, a 2022 mural project or whatever, where our goal is to get 5 murals done throughout the city?
In a year?
Mhm.
Wow.
That's aggressive, and.
Oh, we could form,
I do think the snowman thing's gonna take a lot more collaboration and planning to get it done. The mural project, if Loves, it sounds like Loves is a volunteer for whatever, and Shifsky's might be another one too,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
The
They-
mural project is something that the fulcrum lies on the council approving the art that's proposed. So it seems like that groundwork is already laid in a way, except for the council approving it, because the council ultimately is gonna have to approve this, correct?
and we'd have to have the funds.
Well, yeah, and that's where I think, we're gonna have to get down into our processes and standards. So, you know, yeah, I mean, I think we can make a recommendation of murals that are well considered, given the people who own the property that it's gonna be done on, and what the mural itself will look like. But then if this commission is in full support of recommending that thing to the council, I think, yes, the council could still say no. But there's, you know, that's why you have an arts commission.
So our recommendation would be that we proceed with, you know, the development of these relationships and, you know, so it's finding the artist, or artists to compete for doing this design and, you know, having standards around that design and so on. But that's the proposal, is that we can begin moving in that direction.
And does the council select the final artist, or does the Arts Commission? Or could we have?
I would think we would do all of that work,
Yeah.
but, you know, look, does the council have to have final approval on it? Yeah, probably, but usually at that point it gets to be kind of rubber stamping. I mean, it's like,
There'd be no surprises at that point.
right. But I think what we need to do is set up some parameters around, well, what is art? What are we comfortable with? What fits our purpose and mission, really? You know, so is this expressing the spirit and culture of the residents in some way, or our community? Is it, so I think we have to kind of go through and say, does it check the boxes that we need? Is it affordable? Is it, you know, is there some, what does it mean? And then, because if we're checking all those boxes, then we go to the council and say, it fits this.
And are we just gonna pick artists that we like, or are we gonna do a call for artists and have them apply, and then put a committee together?
Yeah, so those are all things that we wanna kind of talk through. It's like, for everything you're gonna do you
Yep.
put out for bid? For
Mhm.
at least 3, or what, you know, what do you do, you know? How do you select artists? How do you select art? How do you select locations?
My guess is, because we're representing the city, we probably have to do this public bidding process, which could be a good thing, because then you get publicity, and we could, you know, put up the call and all of that.
And I think you could put the parameters around what you would like the art to be. I mean, it would be open to the artist to create it, but if you wanted to incorporate something from our history and something moving forward, or whatever that theme is that
Right.
we would like.
Yeah, it can be tricky working with artists, you know.
Putting a mural on a building, does that impose on a sign ordinance? Would they consider that
It
as
could.
part of? the
Yeah,
sign?
so we have a sign ordinance discussion tomorrow
Okay.
evening at our planning commission.
So Old Chicago and Roseville commissioned an artist to paint a mural on the side of their building on Farmar, and Roseville made them take it down.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Yeah. Because they said it violated their sign ordinance. Yeah.
Yeah, that can happen. I mean, you gotta have it cleared.
Yeah. So I'll bring that up to them. Arts Commission's a little concerned with the sign.
Well, and what's the parameters that we can execute this project within that will have signed ordinance blessings or approvals or?
Right.
And I
Keep
think,
in mind the recommendation for the mural on Shifsky's did come from one of the planning commissioners, though, so they're very supportive of
yeah,
Okay.
art in the city.
Okay.
Yeah, they're definitely supportive. And yeah, just kind of where things are permitted to put outside of the sign. Maybe it's a sculpture, then it's not considered a sign, maybe necessarily anymore. It becomes.
Do we want to have a call for business participants and have them propose their business first? Because it's like, where I get concerned about is Love's has already been in touch, Shifsky's has already been in touch. But they, like, yes, we know we're gonna have two people who are gonna put their ring in, or their shoe into the game, or
Have the
whatever.
ring, yeah.
You know what I'm saying, it's been a long day.
Yeah.
And there could be others that we're overlooking that would be great
Sure.
candidates or interested if we don't do a public call first
Yeah, yeah.
for businesses. Cause I think calling for artists is putting the cart before the horse if we don't fairly select businesses first.
Can I push back just a little bit?
Sure,
All right, so,
absolutely.
so my thought is, because we're new, it'd be nice to get one or two home runs
Mhm.
Mhm.
first, because my fear is we put the call out and businesses go, Arts Commission, who are they? I don't know what this is gonna look like, I'm scared, my business is at stake. And then it's like, you know, if we already have two sort of willing and eager buddies, let's knock it out of the park and then say, and this is not, you know, we're just getting started, and
Mhm.
putting the call out, and would that,
I
Would that
agree,
make
I
sense?
think that makes sense to me, and I have a sneaky suspicion both Love and Shifty's would be a willing partner in the funding of these projects.
See, and that's the other thing that I'm not certain about, how that's gonna work, because it came from the planning commission, the recommendation, I mean, it was part of the requirement. It wasn't something that Shifsky's volunteered for or asked. So it was like, if you would like to put your silos up, you need to consider, and that's what they don't have to have a mural, but they have to consider it. And I did speak with, our city planner to get some parameters around that, and he said that we would be able to have that conversation with them once they submit the building permit, which they have not done yet. So we're a long ways away from that
Got it.
happening, but just giving you the history of how it came to where it is.
As part of the proposal, is it inappropriate to ask a muralist to, as being granted this award, to paint the mural and also have a certain number of years that they have to maintain the mural themselves? So that, because what I'm concerned about, like, Shifsky's might be like, oh my God, this is gonna be an expense for us. But if we have some sort of clause in there, is that putting too much burden on the artist to maintain?
I think there are some
Annual
great
or-
questions that I would love to get out to some other people who have done this, you know, so some of these questions like, how did you select your places, how did you select your artists, how
Right.
did you work with the businesses?
I'd like to see them too, we used to do a commissioning program with composers, and we would have them actually spend time in the community, getting to meet, you know, some of these community groups that they're representing, so that all sides were heard, and then they could write a piece based on those inputs, so having a couple hours where we could support them that way, I think would be really beneficial.
So as a frame of reference, I know a muralist. I just actively asked her what the going rate is to do this public art. She's done 2 murals. The going rate for this type of work is a minimum of $10,000.
Someone should ask for 10.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
That's what, I mean, you need
Yeah,
to
just wanna
understand
get that.
what artists
oh, I know, yeah.
are going
Charging,
to
yeah.
expect.
right.
Quit my job and do murals.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
I did one on my niece's
We
wall,
might
and
have
I
a
was,
project for you.
go. Yeah,
Yeah.
and in
So-
Minnesota,
and
you'll be
this is-
working all year.
oh my
This
God.
is in like rural South Dakota.
No, and I think, you know, so anything that we do, I mean, it's, I don't think, if we're doing a mural on a business, we're partnering with the business. You know, we're saying, hey, we can help you get that done. It would be good for you, it would be good for us, so we'll participate in the cost.
So the
Not
goal is to
involved.
incentivize them to take the leadership on that.
Yeah, you know, so it's like, you want this done, we can help get it done for you.
And I have an idea, and I am going way off base here, but it would be like a dream come true if I could be involved with a group of people, and it would be like, there wouldn't be a charge to Loves, if we could do the first mural, and I could do the design and show them what we would have. I have the means of being able to project that so that it's basically, we can outline it and trace it
Mhm.
and get the community involved. And
Case by numbers or something.
basically, and we could start with, what I could start with is something that I've done in the past and do it on a canvas
Mhm.
and show how the technique works.
Mhm.
And basically, you'd be doing the same thing, enlarging it, and
Yeah, the Maplewood Middle School, I think I told that, they did one when my daughter was there, and she got to help paint it.
that's exactly what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. Getting the kids involved, getting the seniors involved, getting
Right. On the east
anybody.
side, I used to be on the board of a little nonprofit there called Urban Roots. And, found in the big mural kind of near one of their gardens, and actually the kids' faces were in this mural.
Oh,
yeah.
And they got to
cool.
paint. I love that idea, because it gets excitement in the community, and people have an
Yeah.
opportunity to, and maybe we could even, it could be a moneymaker in some way. There's a way to get money out of people in giving them a
Donations.
paintbrush.
Yeah.
Yeah, $5.
No, you always say donations, but you
Exactly.
don't put a dollar on
Yeah.
it, because,
Yeah.
like, that's what we learned doing car washes in high school,
Mhm.
because
That's
then
right.
someone will throw you $40 to say, good luck with your season, thanks for washing
Yeah.
my car.
Right.
Like,
Instead of that $5, $2, whatever it might be.
Oh my God, I would just like,
That'd
I
be
probably
cool.
won't sleep until this happens.
Oh my
because
God.
I'll be thinking
um,
You've seen it,
So I think, so we're gonna meet again in 2 weeks, that's our, or is it, or 3? It's our,
I think
it's the
it's
first-
2, right?
Is it the first weekend? or
One,
the-
two.
So we have extra Wednesdays this
It
one?
would be.
October
3.
6th, right?
That first
Yeah.
Wednesday in October, yeah.
Yep, October 6th.
October 6th, okay. So, since we're kind of coming in on 2 hours here, this is, I knew this would be a fun group, because it's fun conversation. But I think we should maybe try and, we have to get through the rest of our agenda here tonight, and then maybe take some action items away to think about for next time. So there's a planning commission meeting tomorrow night. I may try and make it to that. They pushed it to 6:30 now, Lisa?
It's
Yes.
6:30 and it's available on Zoom.
Okay.
Or the council chambers.
Yeah, we'll be in the chamber.
Okay.
Either or.
Not a bad idea if anyone wants to go or attend that in some way, just to kind of, what's being covered tomorrow, you know? There's not a public hearing or anything, is there?
Let me see. One day at a time.
Yeah.
We are talking about the sign ordinance.
Which would be important.
There is a public hearing.
What is that? What does that mean?
Somebody wants to do something that requires a conditional use permit.
No, that wouldn't be a big deal. Yeah, but it's not like the city putting in a sidewalk.
Correct.
Oh, the stories I've heard.
Okay. It's just,
But there probably won't be pitchforks and torches tomorrow.
and then an update from, not too much, sign code, and then review, finalize, redevelopment task force. Oh, that's
Yeah.
something else, is that we are, embarking on a revisioning of the downtown, what is it called?
The redevelopment master plan. So you're going to be reviewing that.
Mhm.
Yeah, so with the EDA, planning, 2 people from planning commission, 2 people from the EDA, and then 2 council members, which would be myself and Scott Thorson are meeting, to revisit that. And so with the Arts and Culture Commission now being formal, I think there's opportunity to
Yeah.
kind of suggest, hey, this would be a great median for art.
Mhm.
What's the purpose of the revisit?
The revision, it's dated, and we've had a lot more development, like the whole
or do you want to come?
I'll try to make it tomorrow.
Right.
But I think it'll be good for us to be a part of that sign ordinance discussion. I mean, it's not really open to the public at that point, but, so anyone from the public can make comment in the beginning of the meeting, just like here. And I think the planning commission is usually pretty open to allowing public input on certain agenda items if the public is interested. Usually there's not many people there. So the commission chair can allow for people to make comment at that point. But anyway, yeah, I think that would be a good way just to start to ingratiate ourselves with another committee or commission. And, and I wonder, Lisa, too, do you see a opportunity for this commission to somehow connect with the council, like come to a council, even as just an introduction, or I don't know.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think to become more visible to the other government groups, I think could be helpful. Going to a Parks Commission meeting.
I know that the next agenda is pretty full, but,
For
city council.
yeah.
But maybe the following,
Yeah, I wonder, maybe what we could do is make it a goal, and for next meeting for our agenda, we could talk about setting dates that this commission, like all of us, or if most of us, or whoever's available, if we could attend, show up and just look. And here's the thing. We can go to a Parks Commission, a Planning Commission, and a City Council meeting and go to the beginning for the public, meeting open to the public part, and say, we just want to introduce ourselves. These are the members of the Arts Commission. Here's what we're trying to do. Our purpose is this, and how we're going to deliver on that is by having these things. And so we're in the early stages, but we want to, just to do something like that. Maybe there's something we can add to our agenda for when we meet next to create that plan.
Sure.
Does that sound okay?
Can we get a block on the website too?
Yeah, didn't we? I thought we had something. Oh, what?
Actually, Mike has one.
yeah, I think that's what Carrie wanted the picture for.
Okay.
I originally thought she wanted individual headshots, but she said no, she wanted a group shot. So-
I hope she appreciated my headshot then.
Oh, did you send her one?
But there is a page for the
There
Arts
is?
and Culture Commission.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So should I take a picture of us meeting?
No, not in this slide.
Yeah.
And we're not all here.
And Shirley has a social hour at
There
her
you go.
garden, and we can take
Yes,
a picture.
there.
So,
We'll
at
do
her-
that.
and with her gorgeous background.
So, why don't we do this? Let's think about, for the agenda for next time, we can think about planned exposure with other intergovernmental agencies.
Love it.
And then we can also talk further about, I like your idea, Trudy, how you put that about, let's hit a couple home runs. So what would those home runs be? So you're gonna be done with budget talks in 3 weeks, or no?
No, we're certifying our maximum levy here soon.
The max. When is that,
Next week?
Next week? Okay.
5,000
So,
could get us paint.
Who also has free paint is the Ramsey County
Yeah,
Recycling.
right, yeah, I know.
They have a ton of free paint.
Yeah.
It might not be the right kind of paint though,
Could
to use
a
outside.
partnership with
Exactly,
Home
yeah.
Depot be inappropriate? I mean, I
I
don't
know a
know.
guy that works in the paint section.
There you go, there you go.
My neighbor.
Well, I'm not
Do you
sure
think
their
that
corporate
you
donations
wanna
look
get a
like,
lot more of your foundation covered before we start
I know, we're
focusing
going
on a
deep on,
project?
so
Yeah.
that's the thing, you get in the ideas and then we start going deep on that.
Yeah,
I think we gotta kind of finish up, so on the agenda next time, let's finish the foundational stuff, but, because really what that's doing is giving us where do we wanna focus, or where do we really need to focus our effort. I don't think it's wrong for us to start talking about it, especially because of the timing with funds, that it's not wrong for us to talk about, well, what might be a couple of those home runs out of the gate. And so if it's the snowman thing, even if it's a Love Ice Cream mural, one
Yeah.
mural, that's our goal. We're gonna get these two things done, and then we're gonna be taking, on top of doing those things, throughout 2022, we're gonna be building and building, building funds, building ideas, and getting more things going, and hopefully have a goal to get a couple of other smaller things done throughout the year. We're trying to build for the long haul,
Right.
so,
Right.
I'm gonna bring something forth to the planning commission and probably council as well, but this might impact the arts and culture commission, is something called the parklet. I don't know if you've heard of what a parklet is, but it's basically patio space that's an expansion, usually into a public parking space. And oftentimes businesses will purchase it as an extension of their dining, or, for people to enjoy whatever. But has been conversations about downtown beautification and how we don't have the funds for that, and people want additional seating, so how do we do that? Do we have uniform designs? So when I think about parklets and I see parklets, generally I see them as very unique patios to the business and how they want to design it. But if the Arts and Culture Commission has any thoughts on what those designs
I think that would be a good thing to collaborate with the EDA commission,
Yeah.
or not commission, but the Economic Development Authority, because they're currently looking for a way, for an entrance from 7th Street into that back parking lot that they want redone behind K&J's. And what you're describing, it sounds like it would fit really good into that plan.
Yeah, and it's share. I mean, it's affordable. It mostly does. I mean, it's split costs, or it could be subsidized costs with businesses, and then shares their interest too. Look it up. I don't know. It's a long time in the works. I think it'll take some time, but it's just something that's been on my mind as a really great open streets model, but also an art component or landscaping or whatever.
So is it called a parklet, Parklet? Okay.
Yep. So kind of reclaiming spaces, green spaces. And there are fun ones. There's some around Minneapolis. They run a parklet, and I think MnDOT has some information about parklets, because it's to tailor to the pedestrian. But anyways, sorry, take you off.
Okay,
Thank
I'm just
you.
thinking, I have two things for next week, so determine the plan for introducing teams to the intergovernmental agencies, and finish the foundational planning to determine priorities. Where do we need to focus effort? Did we have something else?
No, those are the two things that I have.
So,
Do we need to cover anything that we didn't get to?
yeah, we gotta finish the agenda here, so we got through A, B, and C, but A, B, and C are kind of unfinished. So it's reports from staff then, so this is,
I just wanted to share the information
Okay.
from what we had talked about in our first meeting, and I did find a video on YouTube. Also wanted to let you know that Dan had mentioned, like I said, the $5,000 if we wanted to take those online classes through League of Minnesota. That the fee was $15 each. It's an hour-long webinar is what my understanding is on open meeting law. So if that's something you want to do, we can.
I think Trudy told us everything
We need to know.
Well, the PDF that you put in there, or the link to the
Yep.
thing that I downloaded as a PDF, I thought that was crystal clear.
Okay, so we're good on that.
Yeah.
And as Carrie mentioned, she had already looked at our code, so she was able to find that. If you have any questions, that's a resource for that. I also gave you the link for the League of Minnesota. They have just a ton of information, so that's a great resource for a number of things. And as I mentioned, the Shifsky's mural, the resolution on that is attached in the packet. I know you had asked to have a copy of that.
Okay.
So I did provide that in the packet, and then also, as our city planner had indicated, they haven't even applied for their building permit yet, so that's down the road to even look at that. Civic clerk is not an interactive tool for collaboration. Carrie Erpenbach did say that that's in the works, but she doesn't know when that will happen, that we'll be able to utilize that. And then I couldn't find anything. I thought there was something for the description of our roles or something pertaining to what the roles and responsibilities are. I did find them for other commissions, but I didn't see anything for the arts commissions, and I know it was, like I said, probably 20 years ago that I was on the council, and the records that I could find don't go back that far, so.
Okay.
Unless
We're in
there's something.
section 32 of the ordinances.
32 of the ordinances?
The Agricultural Commission.
Cool.
Wow.
The new one?
Yeah, whatever the link is, yeah.
Were you were looking for the old one?
No, anything on the
Oh.
arts and council.
Yeah, 32.75 establish and advise the council. 32.76 administration adopt bylaws and procedures, which is what we're working on. 32.77 composition of 5 members appointed by the mayor. Generally advocate for, promote, participate in selection, interpretation of public artwork and public art events. Stimulate and encourage art and culture. Advise council on art-related matters. Promote positive economic impact of arts in the community.
You know, that's a good call out there. I wonder if number 4, instead of documented standards and processes, should be bylaws and procedures.
Yeah. Section 32.
Is it chapter 32? I don't know. I'll try to take notes on it. Yeah, Title 3, chapter 32.
Okay, under governance. Boards and commissions. Oh my goodness. You're amazing. I was just looking on the files that we have, or what we have on file. 32.75, 37.5, right there. Oh my gosh, look at that. Powers and duties even. Everything we need to know.
There we go. Oh, what are we doing
Awesome.
wrong?
Great.
Yeah,
We are
it's great.
great.
It's done.
Putting in the time.
Ah, and I'm in this just about every day.
Oh, yeah, we should,
Never even.
we gotta print that one out.
It was
Yeah.
very recent though, I mean, it was only passed in May.
Yeah, right.
So.
Oh, okay.
So.
And this was updated. When did we update this site?
So bylaws and rules of procedure for the administration, I wonder, are we gonna have to do that in a more narrative format or something, which is kind of
Yeah,
a drag?
yeah, the other ones are.
Well, this was the mayor's attempt at getting this established for us, I think, and now we get to do the heavy lifting of
Oh, yeah.
building it out.
Bylaws should- The bylaws shall set forth a procedure for removal of a member who fails to meet the attendance requirements. No, it said removal shall be subject to the approval of the city council. That's right.
I made it.
You made it.
I made it.
Wow, this is great. Okay.
And then I think we do 3 years per term.
I was wondering what that was. I think that's, that would fall under commission standards, I think.
Yeah,
Maybe
30,
bylaws.
46. And then it says our term commences in January, so are we in year 1 or do we start in January 2022? I think year 1 would start in January of 2022, I would assume. We'll take it. What's standard, Lisa, what do you think? Don't ask them.
I don't know that one.
I mean, because this isn't really, we're just planning right now, we're not really executing the business.
Things come and go.
Mhm.
The word.
Yeah.
This is hard work.
Or people come and go on these things. All right, well, that's good. We should look through that as
Amazing.
homework too.
Thank you, Carrie.
Um,
Is this 32.76 title something?
So I took out a whole.
Title 3, it's under the, is it general? Oh, Title 3 governance. And
Yeah.
boards and commissions, chapter 32.
And 3205B is where the student member comes in. Which is cool.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's
Future
awesome.
planning commission member right there.
Yeah.
So as a homework for myself, I thought it would be interesting to find a mural that I liked and then try to investigate how was it paid for and what were the
That would be great.
dynamics around that, and then just kind of report back as a
That would be fantastic.
one example.
And does anybody have any connection with any other cities? And yeah,
River Falls. Yeah.
just to kind of, any other city that has a commission like this and say, how do you do it?
My
Mhm.
friend was on the Mankato Arts
Oh,
Council,
fantastic,
so,
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you
Great.
wanted to do some research and report back on that, so add that to the agenda. So that can be, well, reports from commissioners, or we could just have it as part of our, that can be part of our commission
I can
business.
ask the city of Roseville what they did for their rose sculpture stitch.
Cool.
I think one of my friend's brothers is still a council member, so.
Carrie, things, okay, so Mankato, I'm just gonna take a note on that. You gonna look into Roseville, Stacy?
Roseville's flower sculpture
Okay.
program.
Okay. And, let's,
Sorry.
oh, that's good.
I just had a thought. Somewhere on here, do you think it would be good for us to collaborate with, is it the Metropolitan Arts Council? I know we were involved with them many years ago, but just to have a conversation with them, I think they would be a great resource.
I also think we should add the garden crew to our collaborative.
Oh, yes.
That's a good one. What is it called, the green?
Green team or
Green
something
team.
like that.
Who are they?
So it's a group that does like maintains the gardens
Public
and
garden
the,
spaces?
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know, I saw someone in yellow shirts at Richardson yesterday looking like they were gonna work on weeding or something.
Okay.
I point of contention for developing gardens on school property is the maintenance staff
Mhm.
does not have the
Yeah.
Right,
time or the resources to manage them.
right.
So
Yeah.
that's like the extra time it creates when you put trees in and gardens and like mowing around trees seems trivial, but it's time.
Yeah.
And so there was someone in yellow shirts at Richardson yesterday
Hmm.
getting ready to dig in the dirt, and I don't know who it was, but they could be.
So, yeah, the green team. So I had the green team under intergovernmental connectivity. And then I added Metro Arts Council under external research and guidance.
Is the green team a city-sponsored thing?
They're
So
volunteers.
it's just a volunteer group.
So
I don't know if it.
is that more under community representation as a volunteer organization?
Oh, it could be, yeah, that could fit there, yeah. Put it under there.
I do know Terry's wife is like part organizer of the green team.
Is she?
I believe.
I didn't know.
Yes, so he said, he told me about those two committees when I had a lengthy conversation with him a while back. This one and the green team.
Yeah. Okay, anything else from reports from staff?
No, that was what I had.
Okay, reports from commissioners. Any individual here? Julie is still there?
I am still here.
Wow. Yeah. Round of applause just for sticking with it.
But I have nothing to report.
Did you catch all your homework?
I caught part of it. I would appreciate an email recap.
Okay. Look for the minutes of this meeting.
Okay, all right.
Nothing too big that you have to worry about. And Trudy, anything from you?
Nope.
Stacy?
Nope.
Carrie?
No.
Okay, and we should have commissioners and then also our council liaison. Any updates from you?
Not that I've
Lisa?
already spoken about,
Okay.
sign ordinance meeting at the planning commission.
Okay. Well, wow, that was a fruitful meeting, I think. We covered a lot of ground. So, good progress. So I'm gonna entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second.
You're gonna move it first.
Oh.
You moved it, you second.
I
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.